Everyone loves activating specials, so it makes sense that the 2-turn cooldown specials are really popular choices. Moonbow was very much the uncontested go-to special if you wanted something that charges fast and works on pretty much any unit. Since update 2.0, which has been quite a long time ago now, another 2-turn cooldown special was added. In this big update, Glimmer, which was a 3-turn cooldown, was buffed and now became a 2-turn cooldown special. In this video, I will be showing you some examples of when I like to choose Glimmer over Moonbow, and hopefully showcase the benefits that this special can offer. For the sake of this video, I'm going to assume we've already decided that we want a 2-turn cooldown, because deciding what length of cooldown special to use for each unit is another debate in itself. Moonbow is a damage special that treats the foe's defense or resistance as if it was reduced by 30% during that hit it is active. To calculate how much damage Moonbow itself will do, just take the enemy's defense or res and multiply that by 0.3 or 30%, because that is how much gets subtracted. An enemy with 15 defense or resistance will take 4 extra damage during a Moonbow proc. An enemy with 30 defense or resistance will take 9 extra damage. Glimmer, on the other hand, works a bit different. It simply boosts damage by 50% for the hit it is active. This boosted damage is using the actual base damage your unit hits the enemy for. If your unit is dealing 20 damage to the enemy, Glimmer will grant 50% of that as extra damage, which is 10. If you deal 40 damage, a Glimmer proc will deal 20 extra damage. Now I'm going to show 3 units that I myself use Glimmer on, and I'll show you the builds as well as to explain what type of playstyle each of them uses. Try to keep track of common factors between each unit, because those will be the reasons that explain when I like to choose Glimmer over Moonbow. First up is MYRHH, and I think I've maybe talked about this specific build once or twice before. To be quite honest, MYRHH is probably one of my most used units when I make my arena teams week to week. MYRHH has a decent base attack stat, but she also has a 16 might unique weapon that grants a flat +3 attack. She also comes with Fury 3 by default, and all of this bumps her up to an amazing 55 attack. With that much magic damage, MYRHH can absolutely chunk a lot of units with low resistance. She consistently deals 20 to 30 plus damage in every hit, and that is very good for Glimmer. MYRHH's Great Flame Dragon Breath also comes with adaptive damage, which, remember, targets ranged units' lower defensive stat. Because this always results in more base damage for dragons, Glimmer gets extra damage. Meanwhile, because adaptive damage is targeting the lowest of defense or resistance, the value of Moonbow actually goes down. Now this specific build is meant to be a duelist build sort of. By keeping Fury, I didn't want to go with Quick Riposte, although it's always an option in the Sacred Seal slot. Instead, I went with Vanish because of Great Flame. Great Flame protects MYRHH from follow-ups from low defense enemies, meaning she can control a fight to only 2 actions unless MYRHH herself naturally gets a double. Because only 2 actions take place, Glimmer gets charged. This allows MYRHH to potentially proc Glimmer during the enemy phase via Vantage, and this can score one-shot KOs against low-res green, blue, or colorless units. If Glimmer is not used, then MYRHH has a player phase nuke ready to go. Next up is LILINA, who I have talked about before. With her 4-Blaze Tome and her built-in Death Blow and Chill Res effects, she deals so much single hit damage with her Sky High attack while initiating. I've discussed that LILINA has the potential to score one-shot KOs even without needing a special, but Glimmer is a great choice to pair with her to help her get that extra damage when it's needed. Now I want to mention Blade Tomes because, like LILINA and 4-Blaze, these tomes can reach absurd levels of attack when buffed up. With so much attack, these weapons can deal really high base damage, and as such, Glimmer scales extremely well with them. Now that Glimmer is a 2-turn cooldown special, I think it's very much a viable choice alongside Moonbow for Blade Tome users. For LILINA specifically, she has the edge over Blade Tomes because she can make effective use out of Heavy Blade. Heavy Blade requires your unit to have more attack than the enemy to grant extra special cooldown on hit, meaning it already synergizes well with high attack units. Now, Glimmer being only on a 2-turn cooldown means LILINA can charge Glimmer in 1 attack. A Blade Tome user can't do this because of the increased special cooldown penalty of the weapon. If LILINA gets a good first matchup, then she can have Glimmer ready to use on someone who may avoid her one-shot range. As an aside, I was also experimenting with Ishtar's Mjolnir and Glimmer because it gets placed on a 1-turn cooldown. By using Quick Impulse, Ishtar has Glimmer up on turn 1, and thanks to her skills, she herself can reach into the high 50s in terms of attack power. For my third example, I want to talk about my own Est, which is focused on having a super high attack stat. This is a merged unit, but the basic idea is that units with high attack will generally have higher base damage against more enemies, which means Glimmer will consistently do a bunch of damage. There is also a second part to this Est. She is running a Slaying Spear, which gains effectiveness against armor units, and I believe Glimmer is amazing for these types of weapons because they gain that huge 1.5 times damage multiplier, which directly affects base damage. Glimmer plus ineffective against weapon can be an amazing budget build for units you aren't going to spend a ton of resources on, but want to specialize in something. As a final talking point, I want to point out that Glimmer will help you take out high HP stacking targets. Most people only look at defense and resistance as a unit's defensive capability, but having a high HP stat is another factor. In PvE content, especially the Inferno difficulty Grand Hero battles, we've seen that all the units have insane amounts of HP, around 50 plus just for a non-armor unit. Even if you get good matchups with the weapon triangle, the enemies might just have so much HP that you can't finish them off. Glimmer may be much more effective than Moonbow in situations like these. From my est, I've definitely run into situations where she is dealing more than 40 damage per hit, but armor units have sometimes 50 plus HP, and that means she can't finish them off in one hit. With Moonbow, she gains a ton of damage, but it's close, whereas using Glimmer would grant an extra 20 damage in that situation, and she can easily one-shot most green armors at that point. Here are a couple of pros and cons for Glimmer. It gains the advantage over Moonbow when dealing with low defense/res enemies with high amounts of HP. Less defense and res means more base damage for your unit, which means Glimmer starts to scale higher and higher. Speaking of scaling, Glimmer has amazing one-shot potential for a 2-turn cooldown special. In my opinion, this is what separates it the most from Moonbow. Even if you get good matchups, being able to blow away the enemy without having to take a single hit can be very useful. I rarely find situations where Moonbow can one-shot someone at 4 HP, but Glimmer can do just that if you use it on the right units. For cons, I should point out that Glimmer can in fact do 0 damage. That is because it's based on your unit's base damage in a fight, and if they deal 0 base damage, Glimmer will also do 0 damage. The main reason your unit will deal low amounts of damage is when your unit cannot get through the high defense and res of the enemy. One way to get past this is by having an attack value so high, it doesn't matter if you're facing pretty tanky enemies. For units who don't possess naturally high attack stats, Glimmer is not going to be a good choice, and if you want a 2-turn cooldown special, I would suggest the Jack of all trades Moonbow. Real quick, let's discuss why Moonbow is so good in the first place. As mentioned, it helps low attack units cut through high defense and resistance of enemies, and the same can be said for Luna. For example, many mages have really high res stats but pitiful HP pools, meaning Moonbow will absolutely destroy them. Unlike Glimmer, if you deal 0 base damage, Moonbow can potentially still do something. Since it's reducing the enemy's defense or resistance, Moonbow will allow your unit to deal damage, and against super tanky units, being able to finish them off by even doing just a little bit of damage can be useful. Another thing to note is that Moonbow is better going against disadvantageous matchups. Basically, the weapon triangle disadvantage lowers a unit's attack, which means they will deal less base damage. Because of that, Glimmer's effectiveness goes down, while Moonbow will still do the same damage regardless. Ideally, you don't want to fight with a disadvantage, but it happens and Moonbow can save you in clutch moments. The main takeaway of Moonbow is that it gives you a little bit of extra damage against everyone. Moonbow cannot match the high bonus damage of Glimmer, but it also won't be completely useless in some cases. You can literally slap it on anyone and it will be somewhat effective. Moonbow will be more consistent for a lot of units, but Glimmer can be amazing for a select few. To me, the best units to use Glimmer are the ones who want to end fights in a single blow. For units who like to double a lot, you may get more value out of Moonbow, but if you have someone who can deal absurd amounts of damage on a consistent basis, then give Glimmer a shot if you're looking for a low cooldown special. We talked about high magic damage dragons, blade tone mages, and effective against weaponry, but there are many ways to take advantage of Glimmer's power. Glimmer isn't going to be a special for every unit out there, but it does have its place among the ones who can dish out solid damage. Next time you are thinking about using a 2-turn damage special, make sure you consider how a unit can use Glimmer before instantly inheriting on Moonbow. That's it for this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed. The interesting part about Glimmer is that its longer cooldown sister skill, Astra, is probably one of the least used offensive specials in the game, maybe beat out by Reprisal or Vengeance. Personally, I haven't really given Astra much of any thought even after it got changed to a 4-turn cooldown special. Perhaps I'll take a look at it and give it another shot. Maybe that will be a future video. That's all I have for now. I'll see you guys in the next one.